Have you ever walked down to your fish room and found water on the floor? Well, that's exactly what happened to me just a couple months ago. This is the tank below the leaking one. As you can see, it's a little overfilled, and then the 75 gallon is a bit underfilled. This tank houses my CARES critically endangered Kyoga Flamebacks. Here you can see them all huddled up in one corner. This is how I found the tank after coming down the next day. It was completely full the night before, no issues, no leaks, no water on the floor. Come down, saw the stream of water on the floor, looked up. Actually, I walked through the floor in my socks, got water on my feet, didn't even notice the tank. I actually thought the walls were leaking because we had a heavy rain that night. And then I looked up and found this tank drained down. As you can see right here, I moved all the caves and kind of created a barrier to keep all the fish corralled onto the sides. This is just going to make it a lot easier to catch them. As you can see here with his dorsal fin completely out of the water, leaning at an angle. So the water is getting pretty low. So as I was pulling these guys out, I did put a little bit more water in here. It's difficult to tell. So right over here is my 75 gallon aggressive Victorian cichlid tanks. Currently has some Nucci squamulatus and I think one other Kyoga Flameback already in there. I used egg crate to create this barrier to separate the two species. I used this pipe insulation. It did create a very tight snug seal to the sides. So it worked excellent at the time, but it took about a week and that did lift up and float away. So the fish did mix, but it wasn't a big deal. What you can see over here, these are just temporary tanks. I was putting them in for the very first night. I have a total of 3 20s, 2 10s, and then the 75 for the majority of the males. Eventually what I did is kept it down to 2 breeding groups in 20s and then the rest of the males in the 75s. Right here you can see on the leaking tank how low that one area is. I'll get back to it and I'll show it closer. And what I did, I bought a brand new tank. This is the brand new one I bought from Petco in the half off sale. Painted the sides and back, or the bottom and the sides, ready to install it, and then I found an extremely low silicone line. On the left you can see that's the tank that actually did leak, so I'm going to be resealing that one as well, and then I'll put it back into use at a future time when I expand this side of the fish room. So right here is the brand new tank I got from Petco. This is a 75 gallon aquarium. So we're talking this is going to be holding 600 pounds of water, plus rocks and gravel and everything else. And this ledge, or this beads silicone, as you can see in a moment, I'm going to bring up my tape measure. It's hard to tell on film, but it's somewhere between 1/16 of an inch and 1/32 of an inch high. So definitely not something that I would trust whatsoever. Here you can see with the tape measure, and I'll bounce it a little bit trying to show you that it's as flat, fully down as I can get it. There's no way I'm going to trust that, and that's a brand new tank. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to scrape out all this old silicone. Once again, this is a brand new tank I just purchased. So I scrape out all the silicone. I did have a longer video when I was scraping out the rest of it, for whatever reason it turned out very blurry, so I just omitted it, and just kept only a couple of these little clips. Here you can see everything, the silicone's cleaned up in the one corner that you just saw from the front. Looking really good. I've seen some videos people don't get all the silicone off. You want to get every bit of it that you possibly can to get a really great seal. Here you can see after I've already cleared it off with a razor blade. It's looking really good. There's some debris still in the corners, but I'm going to clean that up in just a moment. One thing I never see on videos is steel wool. But steel wool number 0000 is actually softer than glass, so it's very safe to use on glass. Professional window cleaners use it. You just want to make sure you always keep the glass wet, because in case you pick up a piece of dust or calcium or something like that, you don't want to grind that in and actually create new scratches on it. So just as you see here, I'll pour a little bit of water on it, scrub it up real good with the steel wool. That'll get all the very fine and very fine small materials removed. That way it can be prepped for the new silicone and have a very strong seal. Now that it's been rinsed out, it's time to dry it and then clean it up. Do a final clean before the silicone with some alcohol. Try to get the highest percentage alcohol you can, so it has the least amount of water that can still dry and leave something on the surface. As you can see here, I have the front taped just to make nice clean silicone lines. The rest, I'm not too worried about the looks of this tank because I'm more concerned about it holding water than actually looking pretty. So on the next tank, I don't show it in this video, but on the original tank I did tape all edges, top and bottom, so it did turn out really great, and I was going to include a clip, but I kind of forgot to take a video of it. But you can, if you take your time and tape the entire tank, you can make it look really nice. But here what I'm just trying to do, I have a nice wide bead of silicone. When it's pressed in, it's at least 3/4 of an inch, real smooth, real strong. And once this is applied, I actually am going to let this sit for 1 week straight. I know the bottles will say, or the tubes of silicone will say it's safe after, or water safe after 24 hours. I don't trust that. I'd rather give it a full week, or as much time as you possibly can. That way I know it's strong, I know it's cured. When I press on this, you can tell the difference between a 1-day sitting and a 1 week sitting. So here it is, back in the stand. This is actually the 1 week mark here, the day I put it back in. As you can see, the beads of silicone, at least on the front, they look pretty good. Nice and smooth and straight, and a nice wide bead of silicone all around the tank. Time to go ahead and start filling it. Right here, this is just a little clip that should have been edited out, but originally I was talking about how in the old tank I could see the water had pooled up around this frame here, and then it dripped on the floor, and I was starting to show where the drain is. So here is after the tank's been filled. I was just going about my business in the fish room, doing a couple of the water changes, watching some TV in the background. You can see the tank filling in the back, and completely lost track that it was filling and overfilled it. So on the first time this tank has ever seen water, I've already overfilled it. As you can see here, I've already pulled out the hose, but everything's all wet. It's right to the tip top. So at this point, I'd say it is holding the maximum amount of water, at least for a few minutes. Luckily, just like when it drained, I had the floor drain not too far away, so it wasn't a giant deal. Please excuse the mess. It's a little messy, but it's always kind of a little messy in there. So as you can see here, the tank is filled. This is 24 hours after it's been filled. It's holding water great. I don't have any filters, substrate, or anything added to it yet. I just want to make sure it's going to hold water. This way I'm not going to see any splashes or anything on the upper rim or running on the walls. This is several days later. I want to say this is about day 5 or so. That's what you're going to see me do here. And this is just for the heck of it. I decided to start tapping and banging on the glass, because I figured if it's going to leak or I'm going to have any issues, I'd rather it happen now before I have fish and substrate and everything else in there. But as you can see, the thickness of the silicone, I'm not too concerned. It did my tapping on the glass test. It passed that. Right now, what you see, I have it set up how I traditionally do, with kind of 2 cave systems on opposite ends of the tank and an area in the middle for the fry. But at this point, I decided I was no longer going to put the Kyoga Flamebacks back in. I was going to move to the Pseudotropheus interruptus into this tank. They're currently in this 40 here. The colony's growing, and they're great looking fish, so I decided it's time to move them to the 75. I've been working with the Kyogas for about 5 years now, and I think it's time to move on. I'm going to keep them, probably one small family group. I'll move them into a 40 gallon, maybe just a trio. maybe 4 fish, and just keep a small group of them going with the others. I have an upcoming swap I'm going to be selling it so I'm going to see if I can sell them there. I'll give a real great price, sell them as breeding colonies at trios at minimum. But I think it's time to move on to the Chogas. So what I did here, I took one of the filters from the Pseudotropheus interruptus tank, and I want to do a fast cycle in this tank. It's all their waste and it's their filter, so it's the safest way I could do that. So as you can see here, what I'm just going to do, I'm going to squeeze out this filter, get all the mulm and the waste and everything else that's in this filter to pretty much cover the smallest of surface area of this entire aquarium. It's also going to seed these other 2 filters. As you can see here now, as it's being sloshed around, it's going to cover pretty much every single square inch of this aquarium. Should help with the fast cycle and actually add all the fish in the very next day. As you can see here, all that debris and stuff is pretty much on everything. Everything has a nice coating of dust on it. What I don't show on camera is I do go ahead and clean all 3 of these filters, and then I go ahead and do a vac on the sand, clean everything up before I started adding the fish. Initially I started adding fish. I was putting them in these specimen containers to transfer them over, and then I realized that this is silly because I'm moving from their water to their water and pretty much the same temperature. So after that I just started netting them directly over. So right now there's a total of 6 fish in there, and I still have to add the rest. They're all getting used to everything, just hiding in that corner, but as you can see they've been in there for probably less than 5 minutes and everybody's already kind of getting relaxed. Right now I have all the fish in. This is day 1, so they're just still kind of getting used to the tank. Pretty much huddled together. Nobody's really established the territory. You can see 1 fish to the right, but primarily everybody's staying grouped together in either the center or at least the left half on the tank. Here are the Chogas. This is one of the breeding groups and one of the 20s. This one has, I believe, 2 males and 4 females. I'll probably be keeping this group, or because there's that smaller male. He doesn't color up in this, but the reason I put him in there because he has some excellent color when he's colored up. Over here, this is the 75 where the divider popped up after about a week, but it doesn't really matter. Everybody's getting along great. Nobody's being overly aggressive. I just got the Chogas and the normally highly aggressive Nuchisquama malatus in there. So this is after several more days. This is the Pseudotropheus interruptus tank as it stands today. The fish are healthy, happy. The tank's getting along great. Everybody's in the open. You can see somebody's digging a pit over in the bottom right. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope your experience with the leaking tank goes as smoothly as mine. Everybody, you have an awesome rest of your week.